Oh, hello there, and welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Sim Strategy Show Friday morning, heading into the weekend. Let's close the work week on a high note. Can you tell I didn't sleep much last night? That's all right. It was a good night, man. A good betting, my best betting night of the entire year. And you, me, and Ben smacked a little same leg parlay, which, it's not that it was kind of sweat free in a sense. I mean, Flacco cleared on your leg super easily. I had T. Higgins clear in the first 20 minutes of the game. And then didn't it kind of feel, because I bet the Bengals on Monday. And then Ben had the Bengals in this one plus 5.5. I also have the Bengals in a dogs money line round robin, and they hit. Now I need the Jets and the Vikings. But didn't it kind of feel like, no matter what happened, even if the Bengals lost, didn't it kind of feel like they were just going to cover with the way Flacco played? He was awesome last night, man.
Yeah, and also here were the legs we had. Ben started it. The way we did this is Ben posted one leg to Twitter. You quote tweeted him with your leg, then I quote tweeted you with my leg. And to be honest, knowing I was going last, my only strategy was I just wanted to pick a leg that most correlated with whatever it was that you guys picked. So that was what I thought was most sensible for me. So we had, so Ben started with Bengals plus 5.5. It went to you. You took T. Higgins over 46.5 receiving yards. Then it came to me and I was like, hey, if we're on the over receiving yards for Higgins, we're on the Bengals with the points. Then I was like, I'm going to go with Joe Flacco over 237.5 passing yards. And to your point, because all these events correlated so well, it kind of ended up being sweat-free. T. Higgins was, halfway through the first quarter, over 46.5 receiving yards. Joe Flacco was at 237 on the dot at the end of the third quarter. I know that because we were joking internally, is Joe Flacco going to just not have a single passing yard?
236. Oh, no, 237 or something, yeah.
And then towards the tail end of the game, I messaged you guys, which you didn't respond, probably because maybe you didn't see it. Ben certainly, because he's got, all kinds of superstitions and whatnot. But at the end of the game, when the Bengals were up by 10 points with 4 minutes left, I was like, what would the Bengals possibly have to do for this to not come through? And yeah, ultimately it ended up being a pretty sweat-free parlay that we built together. And it was pretty fun. You guys, if you follow us on Twitter or you just follow us on Tails, you would have gotten this sweat-free 4-1 parlay last night.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one. Skillful Rod, you called Freiermuth. Yeah, dude, that was a fun one. As a matter of fact, Greg, I'll pull this up. I post all of these on Tails, but I just recapped it on Twitter. Yeah, dude, it was my best day. I'll pull it up now, of the week or of the season. And by the way, Josh Engelman in chat saying he tailed that one as well, which is even better. Which is the best. So we got everybody tailing it. But here was yesterday, man. Freiermuth plus 750. And then Washington got another one. I had him as the first or last in the 2 million jackpot until Freiermuth had another same game parlay with you guys, plus 408. I actually got the better odds on Bet365, but Ben doesn't have Bet365. Bengals plus 5.5, Roman Wilson. Sometimes it just works. And if you guys aren't hanging on Tails yet, all of this stuff is always free all the time. So hell yeah, man. It was a fun day. And our own Rich Green and our who does our data, showdown data and our NFL projections, and Tom Kennedy, our CEO, who is also a projections extraordinaire, they chopped the lotto for $111K each yesterday. So all around good day. I mean, our wins look like peanuts compared to that, but still a good day, no less. All right. Are you muted?
So my internet cut out for a second. So I was trying to pull up Rich's tweet, and it made my entire computer lag out and my internet dropped out. So I don't know what you just said. It was something around. Oh, was it StreamYard?
It's always StreamYard, dude. I'm telling you, I'll lag, you'll lag. It's StreamYard on your end, on my end. It's just StreamYard and in general. So you were go ahead. You were trying to pull Rich's tweet up, you said.
Yeah, I was trying to pull Rich's tweet up, and then just everything started lagging out. So I'm not going to try to pull the tweet out again. But yeah, like $110,000 to Tom Kennedy, $110,000 to Rich. Tom actually posted, if you guys go to Tom Kennedy's Twitter, which I retweeted, he posted the exact strategy that he used building his lineups in the Sims last night.
Yeah, and it's a good one. You should check that out. Talking about 15% the first to smooth out kind of the variance, and then 3 uniques for the top 100 lineups, 2 uniques for the remaining 50 lineups. I found that very interesting. Anyway, Tiffany, thank you for the super chat. Just got here. Thanks for the Washington bet. That was great. You guys are awesome. You're welcome. I'm glad they hit. I'm glad you guys tailed, because that makes everything that much more fun. Plan B smoothies, atone. Yes, atone for your sins. How could I forget? Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. Give us your top stack going into this week. If you have to build one stack in a single entry, what's it going to be? You can only play one. What's it going to be? For me, it's going to be disgusting, and we're going to have some fun with that. But anyway, not my birthday, but thank you for saying happy birthday anyway. All right, man. You ready to get into it?
If Plan B Smoothie was always accurate with his posts, you would be approximately 745 years old.
I feel like it today, dude. Anyway, let's make it happen. So this is the Sim Strategy Show, not to be confused with the single lineup sim, where Greg and I, really what we're doing in that show on Wednesday, which you should watch every week, we're breaking down the entire slate, but we're also building lineups out in the single lineup sim with our insights and how we think the slate is going to break down. With this one, we're taking the information that's given to us in the sims. We can make some adjustments, right? Some ROI boosts, some caps. We can add some uniques in, look at exposure, see how many triple stacks, double stacks, skinny stacks we have, and really get a good idea now that we have refined data, which was all updated this morning, what the lineups are, like kind of what we're gearing up to be working with heading into Sunday. So I think the way we format our shows throughout the week, first look where we don't have projections, but it's like, okay, here's the lay of the land. Wednesday, we start to get into it with projections. Today, we have refined projections. And then Sunday, everything comes together. This is one that's going to help a lot of people, I think, Greg, because it's going to show us what position we are in going into this 10-game main slate.
Yeah, and a spot that I really like that's showing up a bunch in the Sims. You guys might get a sense for it by looking at some of the spots we're overweight to here. But there is. We actually might even like the same growth spot for this week. So let's get into it.
What is it? Just tell me.
The Jets against the Carolina Panthers. Justin Fields.
Yeah, man. I bet the Jets earlier this week. Oh, you bet the Jets too.
Yeah, a little bit different. Very similar. You took them plus 2.5. I took the money line at plus 110. And
no,
then
I took them plus 2.5, and I have them in a money line round robin, a dog's money line round robin. So I've covered my bases, brother.
So first thing I noticed when I ran the Sims this morning is that Justin Fields at just 1% ownership is showing up in 13% of lineups. So we're getting way overweight to the field on a contrarian option here in Justin Fields. And there's some real chalk at quarterback. We very rarely have condensed chalk at the quarterback position. Usually it's kind of spread out. It's hard to compare it to other positions just because you can only roster one quarterback, whereas you could roster up to 4 wide receivers. You could roster up to 3 running backs. But you guys will see here, Caleb Williams, who's showing up in a ton of lineups, he's 12% owned. Jaden Daniels is 25% owned. We've got Patrick Mahomes projected for 15% ownership. Justin Herbert projected for 9% ownership. And we've got one contrarian option here showing up in a bunch of lineups. And Justin Fields, is he a good real-life quarterback? No, not really. We know that at this point, but he remains a very good fantasy asset. He's got a decent matchup here against the Carolina Panthers. And with the rushing upside of Justin Fields, there are very few quarterbacks who on their best day for fantasy have a better fantasy outcome than Justin Fields. I really do like him in the Jet stacks of 1% ownership, even with Garrett Wilson out. In some ways, it kind of makes the Jets a little bit better in a sense for stack, just because it makes the stack cheaper. You go to Mason Taylor for really cheap at tight end. Breece Hall is a really good option at running back, and he's capable of catching passes. I like Jet stacks, Loughy.
So do I. I tweeted earlier this week, man, where it was like, I threw Quinchon Judkins in, and I was like, all right, what next? And quote tweeted with, got it, with Rashee Rice. And then I think it was Justin Jefferson because Quinyon Mitchell looked like he was not going to play. Now it looks like he's going to play. And then, Greg, I was like, here's where I lose all of you guys. And it was Justin Fields with Breece Hall. And people like, yeah, well, it would help if Justin Fields had his pass catchers. It's like, yeah, but also do his legs work? If Justin Fields' legs still work, I kind of don't care. Now, yeah, it would be nice to have Garrett Wilson, but it's not that bad of a matchup. They're what, plus 110 on the money? I got them at, I think it was like plus 115 on the money line or something. I think in some spots they're minus 105 now on the money line.
Oh,
like straight pick them.
Yeah, I could check the link just because I had posted the Jets money line on Tails, so I could check that.
I got him at plus 105 on, when did I bet that? 3 days ago? Yeah, 3 days ago.
So I bet them on DraftKings at plus 110. To your point about how the line has moved in different spots, we've got them even money on FanDuel. Rebet has the minus 103. Yeah, there are a handful of books that have the Jets at minus 103, minus 104 now. That plus 110 line, that's gone at this point. The best available line is plus 107. But there has been some line movement in favor of the Jets here. And as much as they're clearly not a good football team, but at the same time, too, they played competitive games against the Bucs. They've played competitive games against pretty decent teams this year. It's not like they're losing by 30, 40 points every single game. They're in a lot of tight games where they just lose at the end of it.
Always. And in that case, it's like we could still lose our bet and Fields could still be fine. So we're actually getting Fields. Earlier in the week, we were not getting much Fields. We're getting a lot more Fields now. If this is right, and I think he will be more owned than 2% for what it's worth, but if this is even close to accurate, we're going to have significant leverage over the field. I'm okay with it. I will say, I don't love that much Caleb Williams. Like, I will personally be tamping down that Caleb Williams exposure. I can say that with relative certainty, unless something really weird happens. There's no way I don't tamp that down a little bit. There are so many quarterbacks on this slate that I'm interested in. I really don't want half of my 150 having Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I don't think that he'll end up in quite this many lineups. Although with that said, I thought that was going to be the case with me when Justin Fields played against the Cowboys a couple weeks ago, and then push came to shove, and he was in more than half my lineups for that slate. So I don't want to say never, but if the slate started right now, I wouldn't have this much of Caleb Williams.
See, Keith Jackson says this is all about Carolina blowing this game because they're all over the place. Yeah. He said, and they're completely untrustworthy. Yeah. I mean, that's why, look, they can come in and win. The Jets are a bad team. The Panthers can absolutely win. No doubt about it, man. They're favored. But the fact that they're a road favorite, you just can't really convince me to bet the Panthers as a road favorite. I took them last week happily at plus 3.5 at home against Dallas. They won outright. I bet the Panthers a good amount this season, but not here. And I think Justin Fields will have to run. There were questions earlier in the week, like, are you worried that he gets benched? Ben made a great point on Tuesday, Greg, essentially saying if he gets benched, it wouldn't matter if he played the whole game anyway. Like, he just would have been bad, So, all right, so they bench him at halftime and he has -1 DraftKings points with 2 interceptions, 3 sacks, and a fumble. What difference does it really make? So, you're probably not digging your way out of that hole. And at that rate, what do I really care? You're playing him for the upside. You're playing him for the rushing upside. And I'm also, can we go to lineups and see how many we're pairing with Breece Hall? Because this is one of those spots where you'd think that it cannibalizes Breece Hall. I personally don't think it does. I'm really okay with going to Breece Hall here. I think his target share rises pretty significantly. If you're talking about a running back with a potential 20+% target share in a game like this, and the large majority of rushing attempts. I mean, they were running him into a brick wall in London against Denver last week and still gave him 22 rushing attempts. So, like you have no Braylon Allen for the next 2 months. Isaiah Davis isn't going to get a ton of work. I think these guys can coexist, even if there's some perceived negative correlation there. I'm not convinced that Fields and Breece Hall can't do a lot of work together in the passing game, or both of them just run it. That's the other thing, Greg. Like, both of these guys might just run enough to where at their cheap price points, they're both optimal.
Yeah, and if you do look at the lineups, we've got some Fields and Hall. The overwhelmingly most used stacking partner with Justin Fields, it's Mason Taylor, which also makes a ton of sense. You're getting a cheap tight end who's already been involved in the offense, and now you're also taking Garrett Wilson out of the picture. It would not at all be surprising if Mason Taylor led the Jets in targets this weekend. But you see here, the number one lineup, it is Fields with Mason Taylor. This lineup is actually a Fields +3. It's Fields, Hall, Taylor, and let's see.
Reynolds.
Oh, and Josh Reynolds. Then we've also got here, which also wouldn't be massively surprising. Reynolds also saw some increased looks. There was, even though Wilson didn't necessarily leave last game entirely with an injury, he was clearly a little bit banged up and needed to come off the field at times. And I'm just kind of going off memory, but it did feel like Justin Fields threw the ball to Josh Reynolds on every single play that Garrett Wilson wasn't on the field last week.
Yeah.
So we have here a Josh Reynolds stack with Fields. Here's a QB +2, Fields and Mason Taylor. Fields, Mason Taylor, and Breece Hall. Here's another one, Fields, Breece Hall, Mason Taylor. And then all the rest of these ones at the top here are Fields to Taylor.
So I prefer the Fields skinnies or the Fields +2s. I don't know if I'd run any naked Fields. I don't know if we have any, if you want to scroll. The +3, I'm really not, I'm not sure I want to do that in a spot like this. There's a naked Fields.
Yeah, this one isn't in one of our top 150 lineups.
Still positive though.
Yeah. 36.4% sim ROI. But yeah, Fields, naked, Javonte Williams, Quinchon Judkins, Ted McMillan, Chris Olave, Rashee Rice, Trey McBride, Deebo Samuel, Cardinals defense. But yeah, there weren't really any super highly simmed ROI lineups that were Fields naked.
Clayton, early in the week, I thought the Jets was just wishful thinking. Now I'm on board. Yeah, I mean, look, our job isn't to convince you. It's just like, I'm always going to tell you, and I know Greg is always going to tell you where he's going. Never going to like conceal anything. It's just, hey, I like this spot. Everyone makes their own decisions and builds their own lineups, but this is a spot where I do think there's some buy low upside. I mean, it's just kind of, you and I think similarly here. There are certain spots where, and you were right about Chase Brown, even though he didn't have a big game because he didn't score, but you were absolutely right on the buy low yesterday. He had a really dominant rushing game. He was excellent. He almost 3x'd his total, his highest rushing total on the season in one game. So did it work out perfectly? No, he didn't score. But in another world, like Chase Brown has 2 of those touchdowns. So in spots like this, I like to buy when there's blood in the streets. I want to take these type of opportunities if I know the upside exists. If I don't think it exists, I'm good. But in Fields' position, there was somebody that was like, yo, Fields is terrible. How could you possibly want to play this guy? They're like, did you see what he did last week? Because remember, he had like 40 passing yards or something just egregiously bad against Denver and London. And that, by the way, their pass rush is insane. Carolina's pass rush is not even close to that. Denver can rush 4 and still has the highest pressure rate in the league. They're insane, man. Vance Joseph's defense, in my opinion, they might be the best in the league. They're, at the very least, they are a top 3 defense in the league. But like, yeah, did you see what happened last week? Yeah. Do you realize that Fields has fantasy games of 26 DK points, 28 and 30 this year, Greg, out of 5 games? Like, this dude is clearly capable of breaking a slate even without Garrett Wilson. So it doesn't mean it's going to happen. He might give us 5 again, but I don't know. The 2 bad games were against the Bills and the Broncos. The 3 good games were against Dallas, Miami, which they should have won, and Pittsburgh, who we see defense is still pretty bad.
Yeah, so I just pulled up, I just did this a simple way. I went to the DraftKings app and just went to the quarterback position, and I sorted by fantasy points per game. This also kind of goes to show how random some of the quarterback scoring could be at times. But Justin Fields this year is averaging 18.7 fantasy points per game. Justin Herbert averages 19.7. Justin Herbert's averaging 1 more fantasy point per game compared to Justin Fields.
Right. Yeah. And Justin Fields has had 2 terrible games, Greg.
There's only one player who's head and toes above everybody else in terms of fantasy points per game at quarterback. That's Pat Mahomes, who's averaging 25.3. DraftKings points per game.
It's his rushing upside. His rushing upside's nuts right now, right? Like if you go in and look at his rushing, like his fantasy points from rushing, it's like 14, 15 every week. It's insane. So yeah, Mahomes
57 yards and a touchdown. Oh no, that was week 1. Last week was 32 yards and a touchdown. The week before was 60 yards and a touchdown. He's got a rushing touchdown in 4 out of 6 games this year. He has, at least 4 rushing attempts in every game, as many as 10 rushing attempts last week. He's running the ball a ton.
A ton. Ricardo Farrow, Eagles stack will be my favorite stack if we get Wentz starting. Interesting, because the Minnesota Vikings will be one of my favorite stacks if we get Carson Wentz starting. I'll be going away.
Loughy and I have our bet. I've got his Eagles. He's got not his Eagles. We're going head to head. I bet the Eagles. He bet the Vikings, and we've got a spy entry on the line. The way this is going, I might just end up paying for Loughy's single entry buy-ins for the entire year, because he's won 2 of them against me so far. We got a third bet going this weekend, but I don't disagree about liking Jalen Hurts a little bit as a contrarian quarterback. The one thing that's tough, though, with the Eagles that kind of prevents me from stacking them too aggressively is I like the spots like Justin Fields where it's really clear who some of the stacking partners are. The thing that's hard about Jalen Hurts is even though none of them are performing all that well this year, there are so many weapons on the Eagles offense. Hurts could have a big game. You stack him with A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. Devontae Smith is 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yep.
You could do Saquon. You could play Saquon Barkley. Jalen Hurts throws for 260 yards and runs for 2 touchdowns. It's even in a big Eagles game, it is really difficult to pin down where the production is going to come from. So I don't dislike Jalen Hurts as a contrarian option. I'm going to have some exposure to me showing up in the Sims as well. It's hard for me to prioritize him for that reason, though.
It makes it tough. Now, if you want to talk to somebody who does love that spot, it's Ben Rassa. Ben loves the contrarian Hurts play this week. I like the contrarian Wentz play, Greg, and that's a spot that I will do here. Actually, let's just show people. And if you want to zoom in a tiny bit, that'd be cool for everybody. But if you want to show them, we'll go to lineups. And a lot of times what I'll do, like I'll build something out for a single lineup sim or single lineup in the single lineup sim, and then you can actually cross manage the entry manager. So if I build out 150 for whatever contest it may be, then I can add them here. I can go over to the single lineup sim, and then I can add those into the single lineups without having to lose any progress. And it just all works together, right? So like perfect way of working. What Greg just did is he filtered by Carson Wentz. So I know we don't have a lot, Greg. I did this with Browning a few weeks ago and a few other guys last week where, hey, I'm not getting a lot, but let me just see what the highest sim ROI lineups are. And you go, okay, so if I'm playing single entry, there's no way, or even a 20 max, there's little chance that I'm going to get Wentz lineups, but I want some. So what I can do is I can go in, I can favorite these. So like say I'll have those favorited. Say I want to play a 20 max or even a single entry. Maybe I'll just favorite one, and then I'll clear the filter with them still favorite. And then I'll go in and you pick 16 more. So I know you don't do it by hand, and with like 150, I don't, but with 20 maxes, oftentimes I will go in and select like semi-specific quarterback exposures. But you have Wentz, you have Judkins, Breece Hall, Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Hawkinson, Olamide Zaccheaus, Javonte Williams, and Broncos. What I really want, though, is an Addison one. So I'd probably bump Addison to get a little bit more of him. I already laddered him this week. I think Addison could be the guy, and here's why. If Quinyon Mitchell's active, and it's looking like he will be, I don't know if they're going to shadow Justin Jefferson, but I assume you're going to see a lot. I think you're going to see a lot of Vic Fangio throwing Quinyon on him, and he said before the season started that he's willing to do that with elite players, which means on the other side you have Adoree Jackson and then probably a rotation of him and Kelee Ringo. Greg, those guys have been like two of the literal worst in football this year. Addison could just have a pop-off spot, especially with Hawkinson going up against a good middle, good linebackers. So yeah, I would look like Jefferson, Addison, something like that to me would make a lot of sense. But that's the way I would do it if I was 20 maxing or single entering.
Yeah, so our top couple of lineups here are Wentz to Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson. Here is a Wentz to Addison stack. It is Wentz, Judkins, Breece Hall, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave, Jordan Addison, Trey McBride, Javonte Williams, the Saints defense. Let's see, is there a double stack with here's a double stack with Addison right down here. And it doesn't project that much worse than some of the other Carson Wentz lineups, but this one is Wentz, Javonte Williams, DeAndre Swift, Jefferson, and Addison with Tebow Samuel, Mason Taylor, CeeDee Lamb, Colts defense. Now, I understand that this is a little bit counterintuitive to your reason for liking Jordan Addison, because your thought process here is that targets are going to be filtered potentially from Jefferson to Addison. So maybe under that thought, it would make more sense to go Addison and Hawkinson than it is with Jefferson, but there is one here with Jefferson and Addison as well.
I'm still fine with that, by the way. Like if, I don't think, because Jefferson will line up in the slot. They do move him around. So it's not like it'll be exclusively Quinchon on him. But yeah, I kind of like that. Jackson Flail has a question, Greg. Are you guys staying away from Dowdle this week with Hubbard back? He is now, I think, $6,800.
Yes, that is, unless something changes with Hubbard's status, that is an unplayable price tag to me.
I think so. Einsteinium, how do we like Bo Nix skinny stacks? Absolutely love Bo Nix skinnies with Courtland Sutton this week. Absolutely love it. I think it'll be very low owned. That connection's only been there like once all season, once or twice. Courtland Sutton's still very good. He's still a fantastic 50-50 ball receiver. Great catch radius. He is Bo Nix. Say what you want. He is still clearly Bo Nix's number one target in the end zone. I think he either led the league or was top 2 in end zone targets last year and end zone touchdowns. Yeah, Bo Nix with Courtland Sutton to me. And we can see if we have any of that as well, Greg. That is one of my preferred that's one of my preferred contrarian spots as well. Again, just another reason why that much Caleb Williams to me is a little bit, something I probably stay away from.
Yeah, just when checked some of our Bo Nix exposure, we had 3% of him. And then let's see if we filter by Bo Nix, what do we have here? So we have the lineups that contain Bo Nix. It is Bo Nix, Courtland Sutton, single stack. We've got Bo Nix, Courtland Sutton, another skinny stack. Here's a couple of double stacks. Bo Nix to Troy Franklin and Courtland Sutton. Bo Nix to Courtland. Yeah, once again, Sutton and Franklin. And then down here, it is Mims and Sutton. But every lineup that we have with Nix does contain Courtland Sutton too.
Okay. Those top 2 lineups are sick. The second one, Nix, Judkins, Breece Hall, CeeDee Lamb, Courtland Sutton, Pittman, Taylor, Javonte Williams, and Broncos defense. That's a sick lineup. The first one, Nix, Swift. This is for those of you podcast listeners out there. We got you. By the way, leave a rating and a review if you don't mind, if you're a podcast listener. That goes a very long way for us. Thank you. Nix, Swift, Judkins, Waddle, Sutton, Olave, McBride, Javonte, and Vikings. Love that too. So, it's easy to make good Broncos skinnies this week as well, Greg.
Yeah, for sure. And then with the rushing upside of Bo Nix, of all of the quarterbacks who you can make the best case for running skinny stacks of, Bo Nix has to be right near the top. Probably Bo Nix, Justin Fields. Let me look back at our quarterback exposures. Who are some of the other ones that were showing up a pretty decent amount? It was... All right. So Caleb Williams, no. Fields. Yeah, you could run Fields skinny. You could run Jaden Daniels skinny. Bo Nix. Yeah, that's probably it for me. I guess maybe you can make the case for Mahomes just because he's had such significant rushing upside. But even so with Mahomes, I would still be inclined to go like Rashee Rice and maybe Xavier Worthy or Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce or something. But yeah, of the handful of quarterbacks that I'd be willing to make skinny stacks of this week, Bo Nix is certainly one of them.
Tony Triggers ASMR. Good question. Also, Tony, I had to pull up your YouTube channel because I knew if it said ASMR in your name that you probably had a lot of subscribers on YouTube, because the ASMR fad, and I don't know if it's still going, but there was like a big ASMR fad several years ago where everyone was doing it. I just knew. And yeah, 90,000 subs with ASMR videos. Yeah, I wish I could click and put one of these up on the screen. Are you familiar with ASMR? Are you a big ASMR guy?
I know what it is, but no, I'm not a big ASMR guy. I don't know if it's still a thing. I tend to think it isn't, just because I knew it was a couple of years ago, and I know the turnover on those things. The last trend that I remember was a year or so ago, the NPC trend, which was incredibly stupid. But that's the last trend I can remember.
It looks like he has some cool ideas here. Are you a drummer, Tony? I am too, by the way. Cool. Anyway, under on Jerry Jeudy, get off the Judkins chalk and go to get out the and Jeudy getting a ton of targets. I know he hasn't done nothing but for a large field tournament. Yeah, that's fine. Again, though, I don't know if it has to be like a 1-for-1 trade. I'm not certain you need to get off of Judkins just to get to Jeudy. I could see a lineup winning with Judkins and Jeudy in it. So I don't want it to be like, I don't think they're mutually exclusive, to be honest with you, Greg. I really don't. And also, when we say getting a lot of targets, got to be somewhat careful about that, because they probably don't need to throw as much as they threw last week. He had 13 targets, which is a ton, but Dylan Gabriel threw 52 times. So, at the end of the day, 25% target share is good, but it's not like he was getting some, Jamar Chase style. He is 40. What is he, like 4,300 or something? 4,400. He's questionable. Pay attention to that. I don't hate Jeudy in this spot, but I don't hate playing him with Judkins either.
Yeah, what do we have of Jeudy? He is in less than 1% of lineups. At least as of now, the weather is expected to be terrible in that game. That's definitely something that I don't want to definitively say that I do or don't like Jeudy right now, because if we do find out that there are winds reported up to 60 miles per hour that are going to be there for that game, if that ends up being the case, I'm not going to play Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, true. And half an inch of rain. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We're still a couple days out. We'll see if it ends up being as bad as they're calling for. I did build a same game parlay. I threw that one up on Tails specifically for the weather, but it could also like it would be helped by the weather, but it's not weather dependent, if that makes sense. So yeah, pulling up Cleveland now. Let's see. Let me see. Daily Sunday. What are they calling for now? Rain likely, becoming windy in the afternoon. Thunder possible. Southwest winds 20 to 30 miles per hour. Chance of rain 90%. So we'll see. We'll see.
Chris, as of right now, if just knowing the weather report right now, I would say don't want to be on the Browns passing game.
Fair. I probably don't want to be on the Browns passing game if it were sunny and 85 with 0 wind, if we're being completely honest. But I do think Jeudy's cheap enough and he can produce after the catch. So you could change my mind at 4,400. Chris Boyens killed it on Tails parlays yesterday. Turned 10 into 110. Love me some Tails. Hell yeah, brother. Come check it out. Links in the description for Greg, me, for Josh. Yo, Josh's NBA bets are right around the corner. So are Greg's. Mm-hmm. Get familiarized. Create your free account. All of these bets are free, man. Check the leaderboards. See who's up there. I go into the leaderboards for NHL. I already know Jake and Mike are killing, but I'll go into the leaderboards for like college football and NHL that I don't know, and I will tail those guys. Admittedly, I don't do that for football because I bet all of my own stuff. Unless I see something good. I'm like, oh, okay, you're spot on, Greg. But use these leaderboards to figure it out. Yo, by the way, I should be up on the leaderboard for this week right now after yesterday. And I saw one of mine got graded as a loss, and I hit him up this morning like you did. I was like, yeah, I should be up on that. But may not happen. But I should be. Anyway, come check it out. What are we doing?
Yeah, nothing for NBA yet this week because basketball hasn't started, but it will be soon. Also, before we move on from tails, want to remind you guys, I did run a giveaway for Thursday Night Football, and I have a winner to announce right now, and I'm going to be doing the same giveaway for the main slate, which is I'm going to post top 5 sim ROI lineups for FanDuel and DraftKings to my Tails account. I'm going to pin it to the top of my Tails account, and one person who likes that post is going to get yourself a free weekly NFL Core Sims subscription here at Stokastic. And the winner from last night's giveaway, it is Jonathan Allshouse. So, Jonathan, either DM me on Twitter or email support@stokastic.com, and NewsGod will get you set up. But you've won yourself a free weekly sim subscription. So if you guys want a chance to win, simply go over to Tails and like the post that I'm going to be pinning this afternoon of top 5 sim ROI lineups for FanDuel and DraftKings.
Very nice. Josh, are you gonna have wait, Josh, are you or have you done? Got you. Josh, are you, or have you got it? Done any NBA videos for best? I'm not blaming him for not using punctuation. I just couldn't figure it out. Any best ball videos for NBA? I've tried so hard to get him to do that, and he refuses. So it's not going to happen. But anyway, can we go back to quarterback exposure one more time, and more specifically stack exposure, Greg?
Yeah, so we go to the stack exposure. I do like the idea of framing is Josh in NBA best ball video, though. But stack exposures is what we got.
Are you? No, it's not, dude. This best ball is the lamest. No, it's not. I mean, in season, I don't even pay attention to it. I have to remember. I basically have to set reminders to check how my best ball lineups are doing. If you're a DFS player, you don't really care in season, but the drafts are so fun all summer. The fact that I get to actually do football stuff all summer, so fun.
I'm actually doing really well in best ball so far this year, so I generally agree with Josh, and maybe I will once again at the end of the season when all my players are hurt in the playoffs. But for right now, I disagree because my lineups are doing well.
There you go. Now, Josh, that's the point. In season, I get to play DFS. Out of season, I get to draft best ball. It's perfect. There's only a couple months where I'm not doing football stuff, and that's exactly how I want it to be. All right, so Caleb stacks are up there. Interesting that it's 22% skinnies. I wonder how much of that is with DeAndre Swift, though. That would once again turn me off. Like I would not feel great about it if a lot of those were Caleb DeAndre Swift lineups.
Let's look at our Chicago exposure overall. We've got a mix of players here. We're overweight to almost the entire team. So there is a lot of Swift here, but we also have 20% of Olamide Zaccheaus at $3,700. We've got 20% of Romadunze at 11% ownership. We've got 14% of DJ Moore at 5% ownership. So it's a pretty good mix. And yeah, we do have the 26% of Swift, but I mean, we're overweight to 5 players of really 5 viable options. Yeah. Anybody who's viable fantasy, and Zaccheaus is kind of fringe viable, but anybody who you would even consider to be somebody you potentially want to play from Chicago, we're overweight to.
Okay.
You're
fair enough then.
Your mic stopped working.
Fair enough.
Or this could be a StreamYard issue. Your words are not matching your mouth for me right now.
It's StreamYard again because you just froze. We might you're gonna hear what I'm saying in about 15 seconds. But yeah, it's a StreamYard issue, and we may have to get a new platform for this.
All right, all the words are caught up now. I'm kind of curious to ask people in the chat if it's the same.
Yeah, there's got to be a lag for them. It sucks, but I'm not really sure what the alternative is. We're gonna have to look into something else. It's funny because StreamYard just like updated and there's a new version, and then they charge more now, and they charge you more for a worse product. It sucks, but what are you gonna do? Yeah, we gotta figure something out. Anyway, so yeah, that's what we got on Caleb Williams. Can we go to and look at our Mahomes, our Chiefs exposure?
Yeah. So if we go to the Chiefs here, I'm very curious to see what we are currently doing with Rashee Rice, because he is woefully mispriced at $5,600. Should he be getting a full workload, which it does seem is going to be the case. Not any real stand from the Sims. He's projected for 28% ownership. He's showing up in 27% of lineups. But yeah, Rashee Rice at $5,600 is for sure one of the top value plays on the slate.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just looking at this, it's what's fascinating to me is that we're not getting any Xavier Worthy. We're not getting any Hollywood Brown. We're not getting any of the run game, none of the backfield whatsoever, which doesn't surprise me. And we're not even getting that much Patrick Mahomes, but we are getting a lot of Rashee Rice. At the same time, though, we're basically just with the field.
Yeah, which I don't think is a bad way to play it, just considering that there are uncertainties surrounding Rashee Rice. It seems the workload isn't going to be one of them. All the reports we've gotten over the last couple of days indicate that Rashee Rice's workload, it's full go for his first game. The question I mostly have with him is, what does the rust look like? This is a guy who hasn't played football in about 15 months now. Hasn't played in a regular season game, I should say, in 15 months. He got a few snaps in the preseason, but suspended the first 6 games of this year, injured last year, and significant injury too. Completely fucks up his knee. And then on top of it too, he has to have a hamstring surgery because he had, not only did he injure his knee, but he also ripped up his hamstring. So there is a real possibility that Rashee Rice, we're not there at practice. We don't know what he looks like. There is a chance with Rashee Rice that he's just not going to be the same player. There's also a chance that he is going to be the same player and he should just be priced at $7,500 right now. The more I've thought about what I want to do with Rashee Rice this weekend, Loughy, it's just align myself with the field, which is what the Sims are doing now, because I don't know what the situation is going to look like for him. There's a wide range of outcomes in terms of how good he looks. I'll just align myself with the field and get myself different elsewhere.
I think I'm okay with that too. Look, if there's one piece of chalk that I'm pretty much definitively getting over on, and I'll take my lumps if it doesn't work, it's going to be Quinchon Judkins. Like, it's really hard at that price point for me to not do it. You guys have heard me talk about it literally all week. I mean, since Monday night, when I first started looking at salaries, it was the first thing that caught my mind. And, you know, it's really hard too, Greg. I'll show you something now. Like, if you see this, you're just going to be like, oh, and not that obviously you already know where I'm coming from. I think we're probably on a similar page here. But if you go into the live odds screen over on OddsShopper, right? I use this for everything because I can actually see not just the odds, but I can shop them across, you know, every different book. If you go into rushing yards, and I'm going to pull this up. If you want to screen share mine for me and throw that up on the screen, that'd be great. You see it there, right?
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah. So Quinchon Judkins, look at his rushing yard prop, dude. His rushing yard prop is 94.5, 95.5 on DraftKings. He has a 95.5 yard standard rushing prop, Greg. Quinchon Judkins at 6K. Like, he has a 19.5 rushing attempts prop. Now it's up 20, juice to the over. Like, this is, dude, I'm telling you right now, aside from the fact that he's not going to get much in the passing game, these are straight Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley last year type rushing prop numbers in a lot of these spots. He has a rushing attempts prop of 20.5. So unless Kevin Stefanski just fully leaves the reservation mentally and is like, no, I want Dylan Gabriel throwing 40 times in a hurricane. That to me makes a lot more sense than giving the ball to a guy who is just flat out good, right? Quinchon Judkins is flat out good. There's no denying that. He's playing on a dog shit team. And you could say, hey, but his offensive line is banged up, right? Jack Conklin might be out, probably is. Conklin hasn't even been good this year. And the Chargers were down Joe Alt and Pipkins and their prize signing, Mekhi Becton from the Eagles. Now that he's not with Jeff Stoutland, he's no good anymore either. And they still had Kamani Vidal run for almost his entire rookie season total in one single game. So, yeah, I will happily eat that chalk on Quinchon Judkins.
Yeah, you see here at the running back position, Judkins, who do have projected for 21% ownership, is still showing up in 56% of lineup. So actually all of the chalk our data is liking. Obviously, we're looking at the quarterback position. QB is quite a bit different for us in terms of we're getting overweight to a 1% on Justin Fields. We were coming in underweight to the Jaden Daniels and Patrick Mahomes chalk. But in turn, we're getting to the chalkier running back. So 33% ownership to Breece Hall. He's showing up in 63% of lineups. 32% projected ownership to Javonte Williams, showing up in 59% of lineups. Judkins, 21% on, showing up in 56% of lineups. Our data does really like the chalky running backs, and I don't have all that much of an issue with it. Javonte Williams, there's no more real competition in the backfield for him with Miles Sanders. Not that there was a ton before, but now there's even less so with Miles Sanders being out. And, you know, Jadon Blue, there was at least some coach speak that, hey, we're excited about this guy. And guess what? He scored even though he played last week, he scored the exact same amount of fantasy points that he's got the entire rest of the year, because he rushed for a total of 0 yards on his carries. So they're still going to lean on Javonte Williams here. I think the chalk all looks pretty good at the running back position.
Yep. John Prince, going to be 10 guys in the box. Dude, I don't know if it matters. Like, okay, John, let's kind of think backwards here. What is the alternative? You keep running Judkins until he breaks one, or you lean on Dylan Gabriel with sustained 30-mile-per-hour winds and insane rain. Also, the rain is actually more helpful for a running back than it is for the defender. You know, you'd be like, oh, they're going to slip. Yeah, they might slip, but guess what? The running back knows the move that he's about to make before the defender knows the move he's going to make. He's got first movement there. So, yeah, they're probably going to emphasize slowing down Quinchon Judkins. They probably did the same with Rico Dowdle, who had 200 yards. They probably did the same with the Chargers run game, right? Because that was the only thing that was working for them outside of that big Lad McConkey run. They probably did the same with James Cook. It just hasn't worked for them. Like, your point is well taken, but are they not trying to slow the run? You know, I don't know. Gabriel threw 50 freaking times. Yeah, because they were down 27-3 in Pittsburgh. Or what, they're favored at home in a massive storm. And Brian Ingle, absolutely. Plenty of fade options, plenty of pivots if you don't want Judkins. No doubt about it. Again, I'm not making the decisions for you, without question. But I will tell you this, Greg, if you guys are interested in any of this, over on Tails, I posted a sweet little parlay, same game parlay. And I said, you know what? I will eat the chalk here. I will. And if you guys want, the reason I say go there is because you can just one click with the AI mapping and it'll pull up the odds on all of the sportsbook. You can click tail and it'll add it immediately into your sportsbook. I don't do it from desktop. I do it straight from the Tails app because I place all my bets from my phone, and I know Greg does as well. But pretty sweet way to do it. I got a nice one over there on Judkins. You're probably not going to get quite as good odds as I had earlier in the week, simply because his rushing total was lower when I bet it, but you could still get something decent there. That's a weather spot. Anyway, what else do you want to look at here? Should we run through the positions?
Yeah, we looked at quarterback. We looked at running back. We didn't bring him up explicitly here, but we've already talked about him in passing. But top contrarian running back in the Sims, it's DeAndre Swift at $5,700. He's got a great matchup against the Saints. He's also coming off his best game of the season. I do think it lines up for DeAndre Swift to see a little bit of an increased workload for this game. It is an overall pretty good spot for the Bears, and DeAndre Swift at modest ownership looks like a pretty good option to be getting to. We go over to wide receiver, which we have not looked at quite yet.
A lot of Lamb. He is going to be back. A lot of Olave. You don't have to love Chris Olave, but it's not a great secondary for Chicago. He still has a very significant target share. You know, every single week, you're seeing Chris Olave with a lot of opportunities. I mean, Rattler only threw 26 times last week, and Chris Olave had 10 targets. So on the season, that means this guy, because that was 38%, 39%. Olave is like 33% target share at $5,400. I'll continue to play him as long as Rattler is going to continue to focus on him. Juwan Johnson is not the guy anymore, right? Where he was getting early work in the season. Rashee Shaheed's going to get opportunities, but he's not going to be a big-time target guy. Chris Olave, on the other hand, is the clear guy that he wants to get the ball to. $5,400 with that target share, Greg, it kind of doesn't matter that Spencer Rattler's his quarterback.
13, 10, 14, 6, 11, 10 are the targets this year so far for Chris Olave. So at least 10 targets in 6 out of 7 games for him. That is 5 out of 6 games. That is a massive workload going to Chris Olave. So it's really hard to not just roster him with some of, and look, we've got him projected for 15 fantasy points. If you get targeted 10, 11, 12 times, it's pretty hard to not score at least fantasy points in the mid-teens. We've seen some wildly inefficient games for Chris Olave, and he still ends up pretty decently from a DFS perspective. Like the game against the Seahawks, they got crushed in that game. He was targeted 14 times and had 57 receiving yards, but he scores 15.7 DraftKings points because he got 10 passes for 57 yards. Terrible efficiency, but if you're going to get that kind of volume to Olave, we have the same conversation about him every single week. He just always makes sense at that price point. He's one of the safer plays on each slate.
Yep. I'm with you. All right, run us through some other wide receivers that you're looking at here that stand out to you.
Yeah, so looking at the Bears, guys, we talked about them a little bit in relation to Caleb Williams stacks before, and I'm seeing some people in chat bring up some of the Bears stuff. So random pictures. Just so you know, DJ Moore, he is now expected to play. There was a very bizarre situation with we still don't have confirmation of what the hell happened on Monday Night Football. So towards the tail end of the game, DJ Moore gets tackled, falls kind of awkwardly, and then we find out he's transported to the hospital after the game with what was being called a groin injury. I speculated that I thought he got hit in the balls and they're doing some ultrasounds over there. It's very rare that somebody pulls their groin and then they're like, hey, we're going to have to keep you overnight at the hospital for this. They never specified on the injury. They just said like, yeah, he seems good to go now. He avoided serious injury. They were so quiet about what happened. That's why my conspiracy theory, I think he got hit in the balls and they were just making sure there wasn't any kind of like testicle that got ruptured or something like that. But it does look like DJ Moore is going to play this week. I still believe in his upside. This is a guy who has 4,000 yard receiving seasons for his career. He has been jumped on the depth chart by Rome Odunze. Odunze is without a doubt the number one wide receiver there, but I still think there's an upside in DJ Moore that's gone unrealized, and this could be the perfect spot to unlock it against the Saints. So I think DJ Moore is a very good contrarian option at 4% owned, and overall, there's a lot of guys who look good here for the Bears in the passing game. I like making stacks of Caleb Williams with both DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and looking for that Bears onslaught stack with a potential outcome of the Bears beating the Saints by, a couple of touchdowns or so this game.
I'm on board. I also think I kind of like that our tools are giving us Pittman right now. I think he'll be even lower owned than maybe not because he's 5,100. They do spread the ball around a bit, but that could be a shootout. That game could get really interesting. 48.5 point total. So outside of the Washington game that's at 54.5 points, this one right here is the highest total on the slate by a big gap between that and any of the other games. So I like Pittman. I don't mind that we're getting some Ladd McConkey either. That's interesting. The big question now is what are we going to get out of Quinton Johnston? And he's off the injury report. So I'd probably go a little underweight on Ladd here, just knowing that, because Johnston came off the injury report and practiced fully yesterday. With that in mind, Greg, and McConkey's price point coming up, maybe not a spot that I'm in love with, especially with that offensive line being in a little bit of trouble there for the LA Chargers. But I'd probably go to like $5,900 Quinton Johnston. If he's going to be lower owned, then he's a tad bit cheaper. I'm okay with that. Keenan Allen probably, but I do want to target that game. And I think overall, because they spread the ball around, it could be a lower owned game because there's not going to be a concentration of ownership on any one specific spot.
Yeah, it's as far as the overall wide receiver ownership, by the way, just 3 wide receivers currently projected for north of 20% ownership, and they all look pretty warranted. Chris Olave, Rashee Rice, CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel just under 20% owned, and we're actually getting well underweight to him as a chalk option. We've got him in just 3% of top lineups with 20% projected ownership, just under 20%.
All right. Do you like Terry McLaurin here? This is a weird one for me with him returning or potentially returning from injury. This is one that I have a tough time with, but I'm actually of the belief here that McLaurin doesn't play.
I mean, if he doesn't play, it's a completely different sort of situation. The way that I view it is also pretty similarly to the Sims. Now, he didn't practice yesterday, so we'll have to see what happens. If he doesn't practice again today, then
Right, because he had a limited practice on Wednesday.
we've seen more of these this year than I can remember in other years, where guys get limited practices earlier on the week than don't practice on Thursday, Friday. The Brock Bowers one. Bowers had the knee injury. He played 2 games through the knee injury, practices the subsequent week, and then all of a sudden doesn't practice for a couple of days, and they hold him out. So there's been a handful of these situations. McLaurin could also be another one. Maybe it's these guys practice earlier in the week just to see how they feel. They go to the training staff. It's like, didn't feel right. And they go, all right, let's shut it down. Maybe that's what's going on. But it feels like we're seeing 1 to 2 of these with a prominent player every week now. So what happens with McLaurin at practice is going to be massive today, because if he practices, I think it's pretty safe to say he plays on Friday. If he doesn't practice, then I think it's pretty safe to play. He is not going to play on Sunday. So status up in the air for him. We'll see what ends up happening there. If he does play and he's not limited, I don't know how you don't like him at $5,800 against the Cowboys. This pass defense has been so abysmal this season. And now you're going to be getting Jayden Daniels in what I consider to be a get-right spot for him, because he has been a overall, relative to expectations coming into the season, a pretty big disappointment. He had something like the 3rd best MVP odds coming into the season. He's not been very good. He's dealt with injuries. The Commanders team is kind of on the outside of the playoff picture looking in at this moment. They're coming off a pretty bad loss against the Bears in a primetime game as well. I do think that this is a good spot to get to McLaurin at $5,800 if he plays. Obviously, if he's out, it's an entirely different situation. And another thing, too, McLaurin is the lowest owned of the key pieces on the Commanders' offense right now. Jayden Daniels is pulling 25% ownership. We got Deebo Samuel right around 20% owned. So if you do want to go to the guy who has the least amount of ownership of the core pieces of the Commanders' offense, that would be McLaurin.
If McLaurin gets a full practice in today, I'll for sure play him. I will for sure play Deebo, and I'll play Hurts. Sorry if I said Hurts. I'd happily get to any of these guys. I mean, it's a 54.5 point total. The Dallas defense is terrible, but the thing that makes them super interesting, Greg, is that their offense at home, their offense in general has been good. As a matter of fact, like their offense is good, and it's been good without CeeDee Lamb. So you get CeeDee Lamb back in the mix. George Pickens, I've said forever, is a legitimately elite wide receiver. He's elite. He's just never had quality opportunities with good quarterbacks. But like you look, even last week, they still dropped 27 points, but their defense is so bad that they gave up 30. They scored 40 against Green Bay. They scored 37 against the Jets, 27 against Dallas, 40 against the Giants, 20 against Philly, but that was a weird game where CeeDee Lamb had 2 drops and it was suspended due to weather. The only spot they struggled was against Chicago. Aside from that, this has been one of, if not the most potent offense in all of football this year. So yeah, I'll get to Lamb. I do think it's tough to get to George Pickens at 7,300. I don't know if we have any of him here. My guess is we don't have a ton. 2%. It's tough to get to him. And I would think even Ferguson we're not getting to a ton of, because his price has come up, and it's reflective of a spot where you're not getting CeeDee Lamb. So I don't love that. But Javonte Williams and CeeDee Lamb, 2 guys that I absolutely love. And I'll go up back to the other side too, with Javonte and with Terry and with Deebo. Now, what would you do with Krosky Merritt?
I'm out on him largely at this point. He's $6,100. He is showing up in 18% of lineups in the Sims. I don't like him quite that much, though. The biggest issue that I have with him coming into this game, it's twofold. Number one, there's not been very much passing game work for him. He has a ceiling of 2 targets so far this year. He's overall caught 6 passes for the entirety of the season. He's coming off a game where he had 17 carries for 61 yards. He was officially credited with 1 fumble. Depending how you score it, you could have said he fumbled twice in that game against the Bears. He also fumbled against the Chargers, and these were all high leverage fumbles too. So You now have 3 turnovers in high leverage spots over the course of the last 2 games that could be attributed to Bill Krosky merit. It doesn't mean he's going to be out of the game plan or anything like that. But I do think it's reason for them to say, hey, do we give a little bit more touches potentially to Chris Rodriguez if Rodriguez is healthy for this game, who hasn't been healthy the last couple of weeks, but it's a possibility. McNichols has played relatively decent. I think we are far more likely to see a decreased workload in Krosky merit than an increase in workload, given what's happened the last couple of weeks with the fumbles.
Okay. I see it differently. I think he probably still gets the bulk of opportunities because I think it's hard to pass up efficiency. And I know he wasn't super efficient last week. I'm okay still getting the Ja'Cory Krosky or Bill Krosky merit here. 6,100, still played 66% of snaps last week. The fumble's tough, but you may see somebody like Dan Quinn or Cliff Kingsbury explain that away to the rain. It started raining very hard in that game, and you saw Jaden Daniels make some mistakes as a result. I'm not sold that one game is enough to pull him away from the offense and the kind of integral role that he's had recently, especially given that he's been a pretty driving force behind them winning games as well when they do win. Dallas's defense is just so bad. They give up so many big rushing plays, and we saw it against Rico Dowdle. We've seen it against a lot of teams already this year. I think I would get to JCM. Kyle calls him a decimal back. Kyle, did you just have a 20K win the other day, by the way? I think you did, right?
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Congrats, dude. Congrats.
Yeah, we had that contest. I think I actually have the I think we have the graphic right here.
I got it right here.
That one. Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, top right. Yeah, top right. We had that contest. Aaron Costa came in first, and then we had Kyle there in third with Dupe LERC coming in second there. So yeah, it was all Stokastic avatars in the top 3 in that contest, and Kyle had a nice 10K win there.
Yeah, man. Also, our CEO and 2 guys that do our projections for NFL and work around the clock on these chopped. I think it was a 5-way chop yesterday. Vilado for $111,000 each. Our own Tom Kennedy. Guys, I would really advise you go read this tweet and read how he's using his settings. This was super valuable, really valuable. And it's funny because Rich is saying thanks to the awesome tools, which is even funnier because while he didn't make the tools, that's Jeffrey who did a lot of that, and Alex and those guys who are amazing. Rich is the one that does a lot of the data, and it really paid off for him. Pat Fryermuth, captain. That was my guy yesterday, and I got well overweight and still did not have these type of results, but there were a lot of big wins for Stokastic yesterday. If you guys want, if you wanted to check the tools out for yourself, man, there's just no easier way to do it than use the link in the description. Sign up with any of our sportsbook partners. I said it once, I'll say it a million times. It's just way too easy to go and deposit $5 or $10. That's it, to any of these spots. And you've got Onyx, right? You have Onyx where over on Onyx, they're available in 40 plus states. All of these pick'em sites for those of you in non-legal betting states, Better, Sleeper, Underdog. If you haven't taken advantage of it yet, all you have to do is click claim offer. That's the first thing you have to do. After you do that, because we have to track it, sign up, make your first deposit. It's $5 or $10 on all these. Place a bet or set a lineup if it's a pick'em site. Take the screenshots of your welcome email and first settled bet. This is like a 15-minute total process, and you're getting a free month of the core sims as a result. Then just email us, support@stokastic.com, with those screenshots. And we say screenshots plural for a reason, because if you signed up on Onyx and BetMGM and Better, that's 3 months. So you could be like, yo, give me a month of NBA starting in 4 days now, and give me 2 months of the NFL core sims, and you're free rolling. You're just free rolling all of this. Plus, you're getting all of these bonus bets or match deposits where it's already worth doing, even if there was no offer on the Stokastic sim side. So that's the easiest way to do it. Straight no-brainer opportunity there. If you haven't done so yet, any of these books that are available in your states that you're not on yet, follow these simple steps and you are in. Anyway, Anything else we wanted to talk about before we get out of here, Greg?
A couple of things. We just got breaking news, so I want to touch on that in a second. And also want to remind you guys that Pick Six is the sponsor of the show. So of all those partners you guys saw on screen, if you haven't checked out DraftKings Pick Six, the first time you play over there, they've got this offer going now. It got extended until November 3rd. Your first $5 in Pick Six sets, that is going to get you $50 in bonus play over there. But news that just came across, it looks like not only Loughy is Terry McLaurin not going to play this weekend. Same with Deebo Samuel. Looks like both of them will be out against the Cowboys.
I fucking knew it, man. No. I'm not saying like he wasn't right last week. You could tell he wasn't right on Monday night with that heel, Greg. Unless it's another injury that he's out with, because I haven't looked. Maybe it's not his heel. But if it is his heel, I'm not surprised by that. He did not look right. He got no practices in all week outside of one limited practice. He just didn't seem right. So you're telling me what? Both of them are ruled out, or both of them are trending towards not playing this week?
We got the report. It is very uncertain, their availability, which is kind of like code speak for they're not playing.
There you go.
I'm looking for Chris Moore receiving yard props right now.
It's not. There's no way. If that's up, I'll give you $1,000.
Yeah, it's not. I don't even know if he normally has the receiving yard prop.
He will, but it'll be like Sunday at 11 o'clock they come out or something stupid like that. But wow, okay. What about JCM now?
It does change the equation because you have to figure that they're going to look to run the ball a little bit more. Jaden Daniels' passing yard prop is now down to 235.5. And I assume that's probably going to come down. Let's see. What are the... Yeah, all of the props are... Right now, all of the props are off the board for the Commanders passing game, other than just Jaden Daniels passing yards. Krosky Merritt's rushing yard prop is now at 69.5 for what it's worth.
Okay. I do wonder, like, do they use Jeremy McNichols more because he's a better pass blocker and they don't mind using him in the passing game? I mean, he had 4 targets last week, so I don't want to act like this immediately makes Krosky Merritt better, but it certainly changes the equation. It actually may make Krosky Merritt worse. It might. I don't know. That's a tough one, man. And Ray, hey, if you wanted to super chat with a question, just let us know. He said his super chat's broken. Bobby, member for 35 months, almost 3 years, man. Appreciate you. Tip for a 20 maxer using core to get the best results. What do you think, Greg? Tip for a 20 maxer using the core sims to get the best results.
Yeah, so I think people overthink this a lot. You still want to generally play the top lineups. You know, people will say like, should I select some negative ROI lineups because I see some of the... No. You still want to generally play the best sim ROI lineups. If you do want to diversify some of your lineups a little bit, you could use uniques. Although for a main slate, that's probably not going to play too big of a role just because that there's so many different options, unlike a showdown. But one thing you could definitely do is you could limit your quarterback exposures to, say, you don't want any more than 15% of any one quarterback, and then you could diversify the stacks you're getting a little bit. But don't do anything crazy like start selecting negative sim ROI lineups. It depends what you're looking for, Bobby. Are you looking to get the best expected results, or are you looking to decrease your ceiling to increase your floor a little bit?
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. You also play around with it. You can find the lineups you like. I would just always recommend don't tinker too much, because when you do that and you start like pulling lineups up that were really, really negative ROI and boosting them too high, it can hurt you. What I like to do is pull lineups that might not be in the 150, but are still positive, and they might be a specific build that I'm looking for. Ray, yeah, any thoughts on the Bolts wide receivers? Looking forward to your Sunday shows. I'm perfectly fine mixing all of them in. I don't plan on taking a stand, though. I mean, Quinton Johnston's going to be back. You have all 3 of them. I'll mix them in. I think, again, I mentioned earlier, 49 total game, 48.5. That could be a high-scoring game, a back-and-forth affair. Yeah, I could absolutely see myself mixing them in. And Brian, ROI is most important. I sometimes choose the top lineups from cash percentage or first place. Yeah, I would not do it from cash percentage if you're playing large field tournaments. First place is fine because that's typically going to sim well anyway. But like if Greg just sorted by cash percentage right now, go ahead and sort by cash percentage before we get out of here.
Yeah, so if we just sorted by cash percentage, you'll see the lineups that are cashing the most frequently, almost none of them have the highest sim ROI, 60%, 60%, 59. Yeah, you have to
Not
scroll.
bad though.
Yeah, you have to scroll fairly far down to find any of the lineups with the highest cash percentage also being one of the higher sim ROI lineups. Because the goal in GPPs, it generally isn't to min cash, it's to finish at the top of the tournaments. So ROI is most important because ROI is going to take into account how often it cashes, how often it comes in the top 10, how often it wins. When it does win, how much money does it make based on how often it's duped, things like that. So ROI is what is most important. If you were just looking at cash percentage, well, then you're taking out some of the upside of a lineup. If you're only looking at first place, you might be discounting how often it comes in the top 10 or how often the ROI is going to take all of those factors into account.
Yep. All right. Let's get out of here. Fun show as always. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe on your way out the door. Did we get to 100? Be disappointing if we didn't. If not, I'm sure there are a few people in here willing to help us out.
If we don't have 100, I'm reading the phone numbers twice. So let's get to 100.
We're at 99.
Yeah, get it to 90. One more person likes it. If we do not have over 100 by the time I'm done reading the phone numbers, you guys are listening to them twice. So
I may take my like back. I would enjoy that.
Go ahead, like the video. If you do have a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Just call or text the number 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus, valid only where Pick 6 operates. See dkng.co/Pick 6 states. This is void in New York and Ontario and where prohibited. Eligibility restrictions do apply. One per new DraftKings customer. The first $5 in first pick sets will receive a max $50 issued as non-withdrawable bonus picks that expire in 14 days. This offer ends on November 3rd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Terms and conditions can be found at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. This is sponsored by DraftKings.
Bye-bye.